Oh, good. That's good. So how are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, this is exciting. Wow, actually seeing
Yeah.
myself on the other side of the camera for a change. That's
Yeah.
interesting. So,
Yeah. Right.
yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Your work is fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
Uh, I love the boats. I'm a sailor myself, so I love the boat images. They really speak to
Yeah,
me because boats have almost a human personality to me. So, can you
yeah,
speak a little bit of your background and where you're from and
yeah,
a little
yeah.
who you
Well, the
are?
boat thing is interesting. I am half Newfoundlander. So I was born in Vancouver. My mom was from Newfoundland. My dad was from Vancouver. So I don't know, they met somewhere in the middle. But as a kid, I used to go out in summer out in St. John's, Newfoundland, and then when I was like 9 or 10. And I was the young kid that loved to draw and stuff. So back then I was sort of drawing around the little fishing villages and stuff. And they were sort of like summer vacations with the family. And I hadn't been back to Newfoundland in 40 years. I went back last year finally, and I just loved it. I mean, I
Wow.
just fell in love with it again. And there's so much as a landscape painter and who's someone, all these boats on stilts, and that's just so intriguing. I find that interesting just seeing boats on stilts out of water. I think they call them laid up. So you're so used to
Yeah.
seeing boats in the water, you know.
Newfoundland has such a dramatic landscape and
Oh,
such a distinctive
yeah.
quality to it.
Oh, yeah.
I was there a
Yeah.
couple of years ago, and
I think everybody's
yeah,
been there
you
in the last
capture
couple of years.
it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's well, their marketing to get people out there is pretty good. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So and
I'm itching to
so
get
are the
back.
boat right? And once you fall in love with it, getting it back. So you do a lot of. Also notice that you do a lot of plein air painting. Are the boats and those
Yep.
pieces that process, or do you work them up and then work them again when you're in the studio?
No, I tend to like on the trip that we did, the photo reference. I just
A little bit
travel
from.
with camera and just take a ton of pictures. And I take pictures with. I mean, when I see a scene, I visualize the painting right there. I spend time cropping in the camera and getting things the way I do. Just kind of don't just do a random snapshot. I go, okay, that's beautiful. I want to paint that. Let's set this up properly, shoot, and try to imagine the painting. And then once I get back in the studio, obviously, you've got artistic license to change and to edit and do whatever. So some of my boats are a bit of a mishmash, and others are more specific to the photographs and stuff. But with that said, when I travel, I also bring a small like a sketchbook and a gouache painting setup. So I do a fair bit of just on the spot painting, which they generally don't lead to bigger paintings. They're kind of their own little thing. If you want, I can show you some gouache paintings from. Here, I'll bring this in. So this is my gouache painting sketchbook. So I'll bring in. Let's see, lots of drawing and sketching. So I'll do
So
like
do
these
you
are all
work
sort of plein air.
right? And you work with gouache when you do these plein air type of sketch images then?
These ones in the sketchbook, yeah. So, I mean, I love gouache because it's so immediate. It dries quickly. You can just finish up and close up your sketchbook, and you've got a great sort of recount of your travels and stuff. So, I'll jot down
Yeah.
a lot of note taking and stuff for bigger studio paintings. But then, yeah, I'll do. In fact, I've been working plein air this week and last week. I have the whole COVID thing. I have lots of excuses. The heat, it was hot, and I just kind of stayed put in the studio and did a lot of painting inside. But lately, I've been just, wanting to get out and paint. So I've got
Do you
nothing
have a
on
preference,
the.
or is it more? It's just how you kind of feel. Okay, I gotta get out, and or do you have a project? You think, okay, I got a
Uh,
project. I'm working on things a little bit.
yeah, I find I enjoy sinking my teeth into a bigger studio painting. That's fun, it's you can it's a process that might take a week or two to paint. you've got lots of time to fiddle around and let parts of the painting dry and go back into it. With that said, after a bunch of studio paintings, I'm kind of clamoring to get and paint from observation and paint from life, because they're two really different things. I mean, one, you're using photographs, which are already condensed everything into 2 dimension. When you're out painting plein air, or even just painting still life, anything painting from life, it's just a total different ball game. And your powers of observation, just having to interpret and filter all the information that's around you.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a long-winded way to answer your question. I'll paint for a certain amount of time in the studio, and then it's like, okay, I got to get out and either paint outside or paint from life, like just paint from 3 dimension.
Right.
So yeah.
Right.
And this past week, I've been doing that.
Yeah, it's a completely almost an impressionist type of process, right? It's a process of filtering through and interpreting that space and interpreting coloring, and it works very much in that tradition. Do you have any artists that you look at, whether it's as an illustrator or in that formatted in the studio, or is there any people that you kind of think of and you go, yeah, okay, I'm going to look to that person?
I have a list, like everybody.
Yeah, like who? I'm sorry.
Yeah. One painter, we're talking about living painters right now. I've got tons. One painter in particular who I was actually fortunate enough to do a workshop with about 5 years ago when I started to take painting more seriously, or to start painting, was Mark D'Alessio, he's an American painter who's been living in Europe, I think, for most of his career. And he just travels the world and paints plein air, and he does larger studio works from his plein airs. But he's very active on Instagram, and his work is just phenomenal as far as I'm concerned. It's everything that a plein air landscape painter, he's just got it all together. The paintings are quick. I mean, plein air painting by itself are usually fairly quick paintings because you've got to chase the light. You don't have a lot of time. But his paintings just hit every mark. They're brilliantly painted. They're quick. He just hits the color and the tone, and the lighting is phenomenal. So he's one guy that I definitely look up to. I mean, there's a bunch of them, but he's one, for example. And
would you ever work with people that way? Would you ever have similar kind of teaching kind of space and have other people? Because I know that that's a big piece of people trying to figure out working with other people and doing sessions like that.
To do workshops, that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
It intimidates me. I'm kind of like the one who wants to do the workshops. And I mean, I've tried to do that prior to the world turning upside down. I mean, I was really enjoying doing like a workshop a year, but me being the student, taking a workshop from painters that I really admire, so to actually do a workshop, and I certainly wouldn't rule that out of the question in the future. Yeah, I know a lot of people do it. So
I have a good friend who I've done art fairs with in the US, traveled quite a bit and seen all these big art fairs. He developed a whole business of going to Tuscany and being people there, and has 12 to 15 students going there. So hey, Newfoundland might be your goal.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, it's true.
It's true. Get kind of 2 shots, right? You can do your stuff and have people and bring them to those special places, right?
Yeah.
Kind of all.
I think it's a good revenue stream for artists. The whole workshop scene is,
it's only that, but I think it really feeds you artistically when you work with
people,
and you see what they see, and then you're going, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. It can work in that way. So yeah.
Sure. I certainly enjoy taking them. I mean, I love it. I was, especially if you can kind of work it into a travel vacation as well. My wife and I, we went to Spain 2 years ago. So we spent a little time in Madrid, the galleries and everything else. And then I hopped a flight over to Menorca and did this fabulous workshop with Sean Cheatham at Menorca Pulsar, which is just, it was an extravagant vacation, but man, if I could, it was just fantastic, it's just, and you come back so jazzed and ready to paint, so yeah.
Yeah, it's the both escape and making art. There's just nothing like that.
Exactly. Yeah. So so
each store has a few pieces on it. It has about 20 pieces or so, a really great selection. Talk to me about I see that you do in-person delivery and whatever you do. I imagine you're doing porch visits, that kind of thing. Have you?
I will, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
I haven't done a whole lot of delivering. I'm kind of at that stage where I'm in the transitioning from illustration to fine art. So I kind of look at myself as just getting my feet wet in the fine art side of things.
Hmm.
So certainly I will do, yeah, I'll do delivery porch to porch if it's not that far away, you know. I'll
Yeah,
travel to
it's
sell my
great.
art and to, hmm yeah,
That's the way to
yeah.
do it. Build the
Hmm.
contacts and that kind of thing. And the virtual way is a great way of introducing and putting yourself out there. Your work is beautiful, stunning, really
Thank you.
well
Thank
crafted.
you.
Got a beautiful loneliness to it.
Oh yeah,
There,
yeah,
yeah, there's this real sense of quiet about it,
yeah,
which
yeah,
I think that in these times, we're all kind of in that meditative space. So I
yeah.
love that about work. It
Well,
really
thank you.
pulls that out. And as collectors, I can see it resonates for sure.
Yeah,
So
I guess
yeah.
that
How has it affected you?
reflects me to a certain extent.
Do you find COVID has affected your work and your creative space, and how have you
Um,
found that?
yeah, it certainly it hasn't. I mean, it affected me going outside to paint in public for a good chunk of time. Like I say, for most of the summer, I've been kind of holed up in my basement studio painting from photo reference and stuff. So that was definitely. I mean, normally in the summer I'll venture out a lot, and I don't mind painting in public places and chatting with people. I enjoy it, But this time I was a little bit, kind of gun shy about doing that for obvious reasons. So it's
Mm.
affected me that way. Other than that, no, it's been fine in my studio painting. I don't know whether it's changed my subject matter because I was doing a lot of painting from studio painting from reference material that I'd already gathered beforehand. So I already had sort of pre-planned paintings that I wanted to tackle, especially from the trip out east last year. There were still quite a few paintings that I had kind of floating around. I've exhausted those now. So yeah, now I want to travel. Like the rest of us, I want to get out. I want to go back to Newfoundland. I want to,
Yeah.
paint and take lots of pictures. So it's affected me that way. I'm starting to run out of, big studio painting stuff because I'm the first one to admit I'm not a ideas painter. I'm not a painter that has, bursting with ideas and stuff to get out on canvas. I'm a guy that likes to go out and see a shot up, see landscape and paint it. So I need material right now. So I've been
Yeah.
walking across the street to the lake and painting from there and just trying to get back out and plein air paint.
Yeah.
So, and that's always great,
Well, if you're interested, I am involved with Ashbridges Bay Yacht Club. I have a
Oh
boat
yeah,
down there, and we're doing holiday
excellent. Yeah.
boats and that kind of the next couple of weeks. But if you're interested in coming down and seeing the club and seeing if anything strikes you as the boats go up on their stilts or in the water, that kind of thing, let me know.
I'd
And
love that. Yeah, it's
yeah,
hard to find. It's funny when I did a series of boats. I live in Port Credit, and so we have the Port Credit Marina, not that far
yep,
from me.
I see
And
quite.
I'm fascinated with the when they're putting the boats in for the winter and bubble wrapping them,
Yeah,
right? And I did one. You see on my webpage, there's one boat that I sold. It was a big, boat bubble wrapped, and then sticking it in the field because I kind of like the juxtaposition of boats
yeah,
out of water. But I'm fascinated by that. Like I go
yeah.
by the marina, but the hard part is a lot of times they won't let you in. Like you just can't kind of walk into these places some because they're
Yeah,
it's
now you
security and
got it
everything
in.
else.
I'm the rear commodore of that
So
club, so
there,
I'm
well,
very
it might take you up on
excited.
that.
You in, no problem.
Yeah,
So
yeah. That's
for
the other thing I
sure,
find
yeah.
too.
You can come
I
and have a look
enjoy.
around the boat after Thanksgiving,
Yeah,
and then you can see if anything inspires you. You never know.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's the thing about being an
yeah.
artist, about being in that space. I have that. I work with nostalgia and vintage stuff, so I have it when I go into an antique mall and I drive to art fairs and I'll stop and I'll go and visit there. And there's just something that just strikes you. And go, okay, yeah, that's the trigger for the
Hmm.
piece. And you
Yeah,
kind of incorporate
yeah.
Oh, so I get it, you know. So yeah,
I found
it's trying
that with
in your
sorry, what
backyard.
it's back you yeah.
Yeah,
It's the half the thing is just finding there's a painting everywhere, right? But you've got to
yeah,
kind of separate, the forest from the trees kind of thing and find it. And
yeah. Because you
that
have your
can be
story.
pro
Yeah, your story is this sense of loneliness and isolation, and still being strong. And that
mm,
is your boats on stilts have that. There's a strength to those boats. There's a
hmm.
beauty to them, but they're isolated, just like human
Yeah,
beings, right? Strength.
yeah,
We're strong,
yeah,
persevere. We push forth, and I think that's what your work. That's how your work
yeah,
speaks loud.
yeah.
So yeah.
No, thanks.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Stuart. Thanks for joining me. This is
Oh, it's
awesome.
been great. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you very
it's
much.
yeah, for sure. So we'll be posting this on our feed, and good luck with the show.
Thanks very much. All right.
Thanks a
Take
lot.
care.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.